All right, hello and welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. My name is Scott and I'm joined once again by Rob, and we are here for an exciting podcast because we've got a PLE coming up this weekend, of course, with WWE Fastlane. So, of course, we're going to preview it, we're going to predict it, we're going to be talking everything from John Cena to Jade Cargill, and we'll be back right after this.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
All right, so like I said, exciting episode for those reasons, but also because we've got some news, Rob. The news is that, as we say in our intro, you don't want to miss any of the action. You want to subscribe. Yeah, we do. We want you to not only subscribe.
Go on, I'm listening. Go for it.
But we have also now arrived on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So if you fancy just listening along to the audio version of the pod, of course, it's not quite there yet because this will be the first episode that's uploaded to those feeds. Of course, we've been here for a while. You know who we are if you've been here before on the channel. But of course, there are people out there, Rob, who just listen to podcasts audio-wise. Some would say the original way to listen to a podcast, of course. But since the video format kicked off a few years ago for podcasts, when we did our Rebellious Noise podcast previous, they would just be audio. And then we went to just video. And now we're kind of going to a mixture of the two. So, of course, we appreciate if you watch the video, if you want to see our ugly mugs, especially Rob's covered by a mask anyway. But if you are into audio more so, or if you've got a friend that likes to listen to podcasts driving or something like that, we'd appreciate if you now kind of finally could send them our stuff by sending them the way of the audio feeds, again on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you look for the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling podcast, hopefully you'll find this episode in their feeds. All right, so with that in mind, let's move on, mate. Let's get straight into Fastlane predictions. Well, overall, let's have a little bit of an introduction first of all of how you're feeling about WWE at the moment, because I'll be honest, I haven't seen much lately, so my predictions might be all over the place.
I'm offended. The fact that you do a wrestling podcast and don't even watch the content that we're talking about.
Hey, shut up. I didn't say that. I've just been a bit busy lately. But yeah, I'm kind of like
washing your hair.
I'm washing my hair constantly. There are things that I'm just not that thrilled about, but I feel like the closer I've got to the PLE and I'm looking at the card, I'm like, okay, it looks like I can see where they're going with some of these things. But there weren't enough a few weeks ago, at least, to kind of grip me, I felt. But because I was a bit concerned about several storylines. So it seems to be going in the right direction, I think, or at least an interesting direction where there's several possible kind of, directions they could go in as far as some of these storylines. Of course, I mentioned it just before on the intro with Jade Cargill. So excited that I butchered her name, but looking forward to seeing if she could be showing up on this PLE as well. So what about you though, mate? How are you feeling about your kind of WWE viewership at the moment?
Do you know what? I have been enjoying it, but I think with the joint of TKO and stuff like that, I really feel like that's been at the forefront of the whole of everything to do with WWE. And I feel like there has been a little bit of a lackluster. People have obviously lost their jobs. If you haven't already, this is speaking to the people listening as a normal podcast. Check out our episode where we were talking about like all the wrestlers. We've done literally a live feed, and you can see our faces get brokenhearted when certain people left. So, but even talking about it then, there was so much has happened recently that I feel like it's kind of overshadowed any good stuff that we would have seen on Raw and SmackDown. But I know obviously it's Fastlane that's coming up. But man, NXT last week, it was so good.
I haven't seen, so I've heard really good things. And it's funny because we've been talking about this for a while, how NXT is slowly heating back up. It does look like I saw a tweet the other day saying if you haven't watched since the Black and Gold era, you need to get back into it because like trust me, it's picking back up, sort of thing. So,
yeah,
and I tried to kind of
good,
follow it a little bit more this year as well. And I'm excited. I mean, AEW's turning the corner. It feels Impact is getting, kind of some of its kind of viewership back as well. It would seem about to do a UK tour, and WWE again in this transitional period, as you say, with TKO. But we could be on a kind of nice upward swing here. A lot of changes in the old wrestling landscape, but we're about to be heating up. And of course, it's not the road to WrestleMania or anything like that. We've passed SummerSlam already, but still going into the tail end of the year, and then of course round into Royal Rumble. And before you know it, we're back on that road once again. But right now we're on a kind of different kind of road, one with a speedy lot of cars, it would seem. We are in a fast lane. Hey, do you like how I did that, Rob? Here we go. We're back to talking about the current PLE here, at least. And let's just get into the matches on this card. We're going to start out with a big one. We're actually going to start with the World Heavyweight Championship between Shinsuke Nakamura going up against the champion, of course, in Seth Freakin Rollins. We are also sadly not joined at the moment by Dan and Lucas, but we can be by the magic of technology. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in some of their predictions as well, recorded for us earlier on. And first up, Rob, we'll go for Dan's prediction for this match, and then we'll kind of react to that, and then we'll bring Lucas's prediction in as well. So without further ado, here's Dan.
Predictions for Fastlane 2023. First match we have is the last man standing match between Seth Rollins and Shinsuke Nakamura for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Now, this contest, a lot of it's been built up around Seth Rollins' dodgy back. Shinsuke obviously has been targeting that in recent weeks, and the fact that this match is last man standing, I think kind of plays into Shinsuke's wheelhouse a little bit. But you do have to think that this whole storyline arc of Rollins' dodgy back, is he going to get some help? Is he going to manage to survive it? So I think for me, it's got to be a victory. And I reckon, you know what? I actually reckon WWE could pull the trigger here, and we could see a brand new World Heavyweight Champion in Shinsuke Nakamura. So my vote for this one is going with Shinsuke Nakamura to become the new World Heavyweight Champion.
All right, bold claim there by Dan, of course, going for a title change. And Rob, this is a weird one because I think coming into this episode, I was thinking, it's Seth, but they always kind of pull you back in. But the Nakamura one is a great example of like when it feels like, and I think Finn Balor gets in this position as well. You're like, maybe this is the time, like maybe this does make sense, because you end up feeling like, this is just, they're never going to do it. Like Cesaro is another great example with that great feud with Roman Reigns, and they sort of trick you into thinking it, and you get annoyed because you're like, this is like the 7th time I've been tricked to think that this guy's going to win a world title. Of course, Balor has won one, but didn't hold it for long, of course. And Nakamura is another one. I just feel like he needs to be world champion at some point. And now that you've got this title, why not? But judging the way things have gone lately, I just, okay, maybe not. And I know they are playing to this storyline. Last time round, I did think, maybe that does give them a reason. Seth's been the champ for a little while already now, nowhere near, of course, what Roman's got on the other brand. But still, relatively speaking, he's had a fairly long title reign, if you want to take title from him. Don't want it to be a hot potato title straight away. So maybe now could be the time. But then where do they go from there? Do they give it back to Seth Rollins? I mean, given the excuse of getting, an injured back and all this stuff, last man standing, if there's ever a kind of sight of someone struggling to get up, it's holding on to their back. So I feel like I'm being suckered into going for it as well. I'm going to say, I'm really torn still. So Dan's going for Nakamura. I was going to go for Seth Rollins. But where does it go after that? We're heading towards Crown Jewel, I think, and then Survivor Series, and then Rumble season. I don't think... don't flip in, no. I'm gonna go with the possible. What was that? You just let one rip, have you?
No, I was laughing. I went,
Oh, it sounded like someone else. I'm gonna get myself drawn in again, ready to be heartbroken, but I'm gonna go for a. No, I don't think it is gonna happen. Don't think it is gonna be.
oh, you almost said it.
I almost said it, but they got to give him something at some point. Have they?
Mhm.
Who goes after Rollins otherwise?
I'll tell you
Who
after I
goes
make
after-
my prediction.
Oh crap! Which makes me think you're going for Rollins. All right, I'm gonna go. You know what? I haven't been watching enough lately. I'm gonna go with a safer bet and say Seth Rollins. Oh my gosh, I'll be gutted if Nakamura wins. I mean, you know what? I won't. I'll be happy at least he wins, even if I don't get a points for it. But anyway, Seth Rollins for me. It's a win-win either way. That way. Flipping out, that was tough, and I didn't expect it to be.
Do you want me next or Lucas?
Go on, you go next, and I'll play Lucas after that.
Yeah. Right. So I'm still torn. I'm in two minds. I do have an idea of what they could do going forward. So
Okay.
if Nakamura wins, I feel like that's a prime time one to push him into that title run, give him a nice little run.
Yep.
I think after Seth, whoever loses it to Seth, the next person that takes it kind of brings in another generation of this is the other guys. So it'll be Nakamura, for example, Gunther. It's that sort of under that caliber. Chad Gable, like those sort of guys could then have the opportunity, Finn and so on and so on. So I feel like if Nakamura gets it, this is the next wave will be someone else. I don't think it will be someone that's already been a champion. I think it'll be another brand new champion.
So 2 brand new champions in a row, do you reckon, if Nakamura took it then?
I feel like if they do it, go back to Seth and then
a new
from that it'll transition to someone.
Right,
yeah.
okay.
Maybe.
I don't
know. Like I'd like to see something happen and like the title be it's not just about the rest of WWE, it's about the title, so making that incredible. I mean, Gunther's done a fantastic job with the IC title. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the reviews or the people's comments, but the match last night against Ciampa was wow, man, it was so good. So my thing is, if Nakamura gets it, I'm not against that idea. Like I love that idea. But then what's next for Seth? Did he go for to try and retain regain it again at Crown Jewel? Maybe. Or could we have Seth win, but out comes Damian Priest?
Oh yeah, completely forgot about Money in the Bank scenario.
Because at the moment,
because that's a
the tag titles.
That's a great
so
shout,
what if he lost the tag titles, and then because he done that, he then wins the title, the World Heavyweight.
That kind of.
And then there's that thing with him and Finn, especially if Finn loses, is the reason that they lose.
Yeah, that's kind of I mean, that changes my thoughts on it comes into predicting later on's match as well. Like you said, the tag one, but that's a really interesting point because I didn't think of the Money in the Bank, and that makes sense. New champion as well. Seth Rollins is bad. The classic like Edge winning the first one. After John Cena being destroyed, it's the classic. They can't get. If there's ever a time to say massively injured, like say, so maybe it's not about Nakamura, but still using that visual of him barely making his way to his feet at 10. I mean, he could even cash into it and use the same stipulation, like it might not even be a victory of Seth. He could cash in during the match, becomes triple threat, and therefore Damien's the one that means he makes him not get up at 10, and the Judgment Day maybe somehow help with that as well. So there's a lot of scenarios I could go down, but it would be a shame if they used it and didn't cash in, no pun intended, but on the Nakamura situation. But I think you could be right there. That kind of opens up a can of worms there.
I've got this vision, right, of both of them barely, or like both of them are down. Seth's scrambling to get to his feet. He gets up at 10, and the minute he gets up at 10, the bell rings and he falls back down again. Out comes Damian Priest because they're both down.
Oh, that's great.
Judgment Day pull out Nakamura, and then he cashes in, does the pin. Done. Like, I think it's just such an easy way because
yeah, imagine that. Yeah, even the visual of them pulling like Nakamura out of the way, like say, like carrying his kind of limp body just away, like as if some sort of like, almost like some Undertaker-esque thing, like that would be pretty cool. Oh man, I like that idea. I just don't know. I mean, I feel like something big. That's the thing with PLA. I feel like something big's got to happen because it feels very middle of the road as far as like what's been going on lately.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, obviously, I know we're talking about WWE here, but obviously NXT itself done its own thing. Like last Saturday, that was amazing. AEW had their show, and obviously, spoiler alert, Edge appeared, or Adam
Some
Copeland
dude
appeared.
showed up. Yeah, very cool.
Not Edge, cool. He appeared. So they've got to do something. I think they need to do something now to say, like, oh well, that's happened, but this is what we're doing, and it's a big moment.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that could just be the fact that they signed Cargill already, but yeah.
Yeah, but it was already kind of announced, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit.
They've done that. So do you know what? I think I'm bottom. Just to confirm, am I bottom of the table? I think I'm bottom of the leaderboard. Right?
I think you might be. I don't have the scores with me now. Let me see if I can kind of.
I mean, I've done some wild guesses recently, like predictions. Just
let's have a look. Let's see if the scores are. I'll come back to you on that. I'm not sure how it's been added up. Right.
Regardless, I don't know what.
Oh yeah, you're bottom. You're bottom on 14 points. Lucas on 19. I'm on 27. Dan is second on 25. So
bro,
you're bottom.
I've made 2.
You're doing well.
Do you know what it is? I'm doing so bad because I've like, do you know what? I've won the title before. I've won it. So I'm just going for wild cards. So let's bonus point it. Let's Seth Rollins wins.
Yeah.
And then out comes Priest to cash in. That's my bonus point.
So if that means if Seth does win, you get the point, but if Priest doesn't cash in, you lose that point.
Lose the point.
If Nakamura wins, you don't get a point, and if there's also no cash in, you lose a point. But if you get the correct answer with Seth, then okay, bonus point. Just to kind of clear it up. All right.
Let's do it.
Interesting. Let's see if Lucas was brave enough to add a bonus point or smart enough to not add one. Let's have a look.
So my prediction for the match, the last man standing match between Seth Rollins and Shinsuke Nakamura for the World Championship, is that it will be another loss, sadly, for Shinsuke Nakamura. I think the time actually really to put the title on him was last pay-per-view, but I'm guessing now they're going to be going through the motions, getting this ready to go into kind of Mania season. Last man standing. It opens up a lot of kind of interference, doesn't it? But I'm going to keep it simple. I think I overcomplicated the last few months, haven't I? And I will say that Seth Rollins retains the championship.
There you go. Gone for the safe option there, Lucas has, and you can't blame him. Right, we're going to start moving on to the next match. I appreciate anyone that's watching live on demand. We ask that you send in your comments. Let us know what you think is going to happen at Fastlane, or what you would like to see happen as well with regards to these matches. And also, I can see that we've had a little bit of a technical issue as far as some delay here as well. So apologies if you are watching or listening along, if we do kind of jump over each other a little bit there as well. But anyway, we appreciate you sticking with us. We are now going to move on to the next match, which is our LWO versus Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits match. I don't think it's actually been said which members of the LWO are going to be in it, but you would imagine at least Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar are the main two. And we'll kind of keep that in mind because I don't think it's going to change anyone's predictions if you knew who the third member of that team would be. The graphic doesn't help, seeing as there are 5 people within the LWO on that side. I'd imagine Zelina's not in it because they'd make a song and dance out being a multi-person match. Mixed match. But doesn't seem to be the case. But anyway, with that in mind, let's go with. We'll bring up Dan's video for this one first once again.
Final match, which is the match between the Street Profits and Bobby Lashley, and they will be
Lucas there.
Street Profits and Bobby Lashley, and they will be taking on the team of the LWO. Now, I reckon this one is going to be a straightforward victory for the LWO, with Santos Escobar getting his revenge on this team and getting the victory, further leading to a potential split with the Street Profits and Bobby Lashley.
All right, so we see Dan there and a little special cameo from Lucas, who we'll catch up with in a moment as well and see his predictions. Rob, do you fancy going first on this one out of me and you?
Yeah, go on. Dan's wrong. Enough.
That's a quick.
Street Profits aren't splitting up, man. Dude, they've just put them with Bobby Lashley. We were talking about this before. We were talking about this when we had Cedric Alexander, Shelton Benjamin was still in the company. But, with Omos and, MVP, I was like, it'd just be a perfect faction because the guys, they look an absolute unit. And there's no way you can put them together for them to kind of prove that they can do stuff, turn heel, and then lose their first match. I think that would be madness. So it's got to be the Profits and Bobby Lashley. That's they have to win. Because I think this would be a good way to. I think imagine if Ray loses, if Ray's the one that gets pinned as well, and there's a rift there between him and Santos. That'd be.
Well, that's it. I mean, they've flirted with this already, haven't they? And that's kind of, Dan's talking about a potential breakup with the Street Profits, which is something people have predicted for, a while now. But like you said, they've just started on something else. I know they've even now flirted with that kind of ending already with Lashley. And it'd be interesting to see where it goes because I'm not excited about it at the moment. So, and I think that's just because odd seeing Street Profits be heels as well at the moment. But again, LWO was kind of looking like it might have some cracks in a few months ago. So is that where we go? Or do we just have a match where, like you say, the Street Profits and Lashley get their win because they're on a new kind of storyline and the LWO simply lose and that could be it? Or does it kind of, as you mentioned there, lead to some issues between them? Again, does that come back up? So are you going with Lashley and the Street Profits for certain then?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say the same. I'm not sure. It won't affect my prediction anyway as far as who I pick. But yeah, I do wonder whether or not we're going to get the Santos Escobar turn here. I mean, it's just a tough one to pull the trigger on because, they've been around for a few months, but it's not like they're years down the line like the New Day or something like that. And like the merchandise alone, it feels a bit of an odd one to kind of pull the trigger on straight away. We've also got an interview on this channel with Santos Escobar. If you haven't seen it already, Dan himself actually spoke to the man and he gave us some great answers, a really interesting insight and a lovely man, I've got to say. So if you haven't already seen that on the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel, I encourage you to subscribe and check it out. But yeah, I'm going to go LWO as well, mate. So with that in mind, let's bring up Lucas's, which I don't.
Wait, LWO what to win or?
Sorry, you're right. Street Profits to win. LWO to
there
lose.
We go.
Right, I'm going to go with Lucas, and we'll see what he says as well.
In the 6-man tag team contest between the LWO and Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits, I'm really happy to see Bobby Lashley back on a pay-per-view. It's been ages, and yeah, he deserves better, but that's not a whole other thing. I do find making the Street Profits villain a very weird decision, I must admit. So I do maybe see them doing a breakaway here. So I will go with the LWO to win this, and the Street Profits and Bobby Lashley to potentially go their separate ways. But it's hard because NXT had Baron Corbin win, didn't they? No, I would stick with that. I'll stick with LWO. It's a B show. I can't see them doing much. Yeah, LWO to be victorious.
Good point there by Lucas about it essentially being a B show. So do they need to do something, quite big? But I kind of feel like in some ways, even if it's not this match, I do feel like they do because the eyes are not really on the storylines at the moment. So I think there needs to be a turn somewhat. Not a turn necessarily as in heel or babyface. I mean, turn in the sense of, a different direction or something big happening on this show. But yeah, it seems like they've both gone for the LWO. Me and you've both gone for Lashley and Street Profits. But I would say it's still a very tough one to pick because, we're looking at two groups that potentially could have a rift in, and one storyline we're not sure if it's about to pick up and go into something more kind of fruitful or just be given up on straight away as far as Lashley and Street Profits go. So it has been a bit of a weird start, and as Lucas said, having the Street Profits as bad guys, and it is it's confusing at the moment, but having Lashley back on a PLE is very exciting. I mentioned in our kind of description for this as well, Rob, that there's a lot of tag matches on this, a lot of multi-person matches on this card, and it feels a bit like an AEW thing, where because of course their shows aren't as frequent. AEW tend to just cram a lot of people on to their pay-per-views. WWE, of course, have much more frequent PLEs, as they call them, and they don't tend to do this other than your big ones like WrestleManias and SummerSlam. So it's quite interesting to see that they have stacked this card with a lot of multi-person matches, whether it be tag, six-man tag, or even a triple threat, which we're going to now get into with the women's championship, or the women's world. No, that's what Rhea's got. This is just the women's championship with Iyo defending against Asuka and Charlotte. Now, this is another tough one for me because I don't see the benefit in giving it to Charlotte at this moment in time or giving it to Asuka at the moment. But with the women's division, you can never really tell what their goal is. And when you've got Charlotte in the match, you can never, ever fully write off the fact, the chance of them just throwing the title on her. And hey, it's another conversation for another day. I know it's easy to jump into, Charlotte's won too many titles. But, she is a fantastic performer. We've got to give her that. But we ended with Lucas last time. Let's start with him this time. Going straight into the women's title match here.
Prediction for, I don't know what the women's belts are called nowadays, but the one that Iyo Sky holds.
There you go.
SmackDown belt, essentially. And she's facing Asuka and Charlotte Flair. It should be a very good match. Some of the women's stuff has been a bit sloppy lately, though, so I'm hoping that they kind of do rein that in a little bit, as it has been a bit overbooked. I don't want to get off Iyo Sky straight away. I'm always tempted to go with Charlotte Flair, but I don't see them just changing it around in B show. Or do they get it Charlotte Flair and then they can bounce it back? Yeah, I'm gonna go with Charlotte Flair to win. I always do. So I think I'm gonna stick to that tradition. Charlotte Flair wins everything. I'll be right eventually. So yeah, Charlotte Flair to become the new SmackDown Women's Champion, whatever the belt's called nowadays.
All right, so a bit of confusion there when it comes to the titles as well, but you can tell who's not watching the products as much as the others. Me and Lucas, clearly. Right, Lucas has gone for a big claim there, mate. Charlotte Flair taking the gold. What are you thinking?
Man, my mind, I love when things like this happen because someone says something, when you think you're on the right track and you kind of think what I think, but if I went first, would it have swayed everyone? So I feel if Iyo loses it, it's a bad idea. So the first thing would be, if Iyo is retaining, I could see Asuka doing mist, Iyo ducking, hitting Charlotte, and then getting Asuka with like a roll up or something. Like that would be a good finish for me. Because it doesn't damage anyone, because obviously Charlotte's can't see anything, and Asuka's been taken by surprise. So it's a good thing for Iyo. However, if Charlotte wins, she'd be the 16-time women's champion, right?
Oh, would it be 16?
Yeah.
Wow.
I believe so.
Right. Well, she's getting up there if it's not this time. But yeah, is your point that the record break, well, not record breaking, but record equaling one needs to be at a certain show, or?
So I'm just checking now. She's 6-time. It's saying that she's a 6-time.
It's confusing as well, because how do they count?
Yeah.
Do they not count NXT
well,
titles in that sometimes as well? Yeah. And do they count the Divas turning into the women's or something? I mean, did she
I
retain that? I can't
really
remember.
don't know. No, that transitioned into the other title, didn't it? When she won the
Yeah,
match,
but who
she
won that? Was it her?
I believe so.
Or was it not Sasha? Oh, I'm getting confused now.
literally
Anyway,
don't remember.
anyway, what would be your point if it is 16 times?
So I feel like if it is 16, then obviously that's a big moment, obviously, because of Ric Flair, blah 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 blah
Yeah.
blah, right? But why don't we trump that with the minute she wins that title, she gets her celebration, then out comes Jade Cargill.
Yeah, but it's a big
'Cause
moment to. Yeah, I mean that's a great moment in itself. What a stare down, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is the match where obviously it's likely Jade Cargill's going to show up, right? So this is what I was thinking
Probably.
anyway when I kind of So unless they had another women's match or they just do some.
Man,
I don't know. We've got Give Me a Whole Yeah here saying, yes, boys. Thank you very much, mate. Assuming that's either Dom or maybe Sam or one of the other guys perhaps with us as well. Appreciate you joining us, guys. Yeah, I don't know. Jade Cargill, I think. All right, what's the best scenario for her to show up here? And maybe that is it, because I don't know if it really... Yeah, I don't think taking the title off of Iyo is a good idea. But the stare down, if Jade Cargill's coming to stare down anyone, it probably should be Charlotte Flair.
100%. Which is why, if we know she's there, if they're going to do it, maybe Crown Jewel. But this is my thing. If they were going to do it a Crown Jewel, right? Now, bearing in mind, and I'm not saying this from like a weird perspective, but the women look so strong and muscly when they're wearing a normal attire and they're not completely covered. And I feel for her to have a real big impact, should she come out in a wrestling attire, like an actual wrestling attire, or should she come out in a normal clothing? Because I think if she comes out, it's like she's ready. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know which way they're going to swing it. And I think if they're going to do it at Crown Jewel, I don't think it'll be a big impact.
To be fair, it's an odd thing to be talking about, but some of Cargill's attires were like that. So I could kind of see that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the baggy t-shirt thing that they used to do in Saudi shows, but yeah, I get your point. It's Dom with us. Hey, love you too, buddy. Thanks for joining us, man. Yeah, I think you're right there. I think if there's going to be a moment, it should be with Charlotte Flair, but maybe that moment happens at Crown Jewel, because I think, all right, I could see this now. Like, yeah, there's going to be people moaning about, but it's a tough one to do it on if it is the 16th one. But it's going to be moaning about a new championship reign either way if Charlotte wins, especially if Iyo has been his title taken off her fairly quickly. But it'll be kind of patched over by another big moment of the debut of Cargill. So whether that happens here, I don't know.
Cushions the blow, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, exactly that. But I think I like that. And I like her then. Like, whether it's this show or another show, I like that happening. And then she beats Charlotte Flair. What a way to come into the company by taking the title off Charlotte Flair. And it gets, WWE's goal of probably getting it closer to that number if she's not going to be reaching it, or at least surpassing it as well. Dom says, I don't think Jade will show up here. It'll be somewhere like Crown Jewel or an A-level pay-per-view. Yeah, good point, man. I think this scenario is probably the right one to do for Jade's introduction to the company, but whether or not they pull the trigger on it right now is the tough kind of call. I kind of am starting to lean towards what Dom said there, and that it might either happen at like a bigger pay-per-view like Survivor Series, which is a long way away, or she could come and win the Women's Royal Rumble. She could not debut there. She could already be within the company, but that could be a big thing as well. But I think she should just come in and win the belt, man. But maybe they won't do that because, I mean, it's hard.
You know what?
They've gone. Go ahead.
So I was going to say, I would like it to happen at Survivor Series. Like,
yeah.
Am I good? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. Look, I love the idea. But Survivor Series for me is, I mean, Taker debuted there, The Rock debuted there. It's such a big thing. So if we're going to do what we're saying and then Jade comes out, I would love it to be at Survivor Series because it's only certain wrestlers
that
appear
kind of tradition. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, imagine if she comes out and she's in her attire, and then in her hand is a contract. We don't know what her contract is. Imagine the very first match is a title match, and then she wins it.
Yeah, I signed because I was given this guarantee of something like it would be cool because it's interesting to see how they promote her because my big gripe so far is the fact that they brought her in without a surprise, and that annoys me when they do that. But at the same time, if you're gonna do that, do it the way they've done, with kind of really making it look like a big deal. Even the footage of her walking into the PC was kind of promoted really well. So I like that, and she's been tweeting. I know she tweeted about Raw last night. So it will be interesting, to see what kind of stock they put in her when she gets on the main roster. Is she going straight for a title? Is she winning a title? Or is it going to be one of those kind of a year build with her, because they could still be like, you're still somewhat green, as they say, and you were presented in kind of, that title was realistically a secondary title in AEW, the one that she held. It was an incredible streak. I really enjoyed it. And it was, in my opinion, more important than a women's world title at times. But realistically, that's the kind of trajectory she's been on. So does she go straight to the top? It's the same as when AJ Styles came in. It was like, what are they going to do with him? It's the same when Nakamura come in. He still ain't won the title, as we mentioned earlier on. So, it's an exciting time, but I think I'm leaning towards Dom's prediction that it's not here that she shows up. I'd love it to be, because I'm just eager to see it. I'm such a big fan of Cargill, and I hope we do see it soon. All right, we've gone all around the houses there, Rob. Ultimately, who's winning this title on this event?
All right. So going by what Dom said as well, obviously we're talking about the idea, the fact that there's a few wrestlers that have debuted at Survivor Series, they've gone on to have an incredible career, and mean something to the wrestling community. I'm going to say maybe Jade appears at Survivor Series, because I think that'd be a lot more impactful, especially how we've just kind of discussed it. So I'm going to say Iyo wins, as I said before. So Iyo wins by ducking mist, and then mist goes into Charlotte's eyes, and then Iyo maybe wins like by a roll up or something like that. So I'd say Iyo retains.
Yeah, and it keeps the other two looking strong as well. Like Charlotte's been, cheated, and Asuka made a simple mistake, but it was capitalized on. So she doesn't look too bad either. So it's she was kind of quickly outsmarted, sort of thing. So I like that finish. I could definitely see that happening. All right, let's move into Dan's prediction for this one. Again, we're going to now share Dan's pre-recorded prediction for this match. If I can find it. Here we go.
Triple threat match for the WWE Women's Championship. Iyo Sky defending against Asuka and Charlotte Flair. So, for this one, I feel as though, they kind of just tried to shoehorn a match in. I don't think that they're going to be taking the championship off of Iyo anytime soon. So, I think Iyo Sky is going to be going over in this one and will get the victory. Whether Dakota Kai and Bayley play any role in that remains to be seen, but it is obviously Damage Control, so anything can happen. But my pick for this one is Iyo Sky to retain.
All right, thanks again to Dan for his pre-recorded video. Sadly, Dan and Lucas couldn't join us once again, as I mentioned earlier on. But it's great to have them involved as far as these pre-recorded. Now, I'm going to go the same, man. I think Iyo Sky makes the most sense, as we said earlier on. She's not had it for too long. It would be a shame if they took it off her. Your scenario sounds like a brilliant way to kind of get to that result. And also, your other scenario is the one that tempts me, but as we've kind of alluded to already, that feels like it might be happening later on down the line instead. So I'm sticking with the same there, going for Iyo. Seems like the only one going with Charlotte now, or anyone different to Iyo, is Lucas. Right, let's move on to let's say, I think we'll do LA Knight and John Cena versus there is the Bloodline, represented by Solo Sikoa and Jey Uso. Now, this is an interesting one because, again, haven't watched too much lately. And a big reason why I haven't been watching lately is my discontent when it comes to the Bloodline storyline. I'm very annoyed with kind of how it kind of, I feel like they dropped the ball, but I do feel like they're picking it back up now, and I can kind of see, they're stretching things out as long as they can. I think ultimately the Usos will be back together within the Bloodline before it all goes exploding once more with The Rock. But at the moment, they're not. We'll talk about Jey Uso in a little bit. And hey, what a way to kind of tide them over by bringing two massive stars into the fold with the storyline of John Cena, who's had these kind of issues with them before, but also now LA Knight. And that's looks like have I had a bit? We had a bit. Sorry about that. It's the first time we're doing an audio version of this, and it's going to be an absolute nightmare for people to listen to. Apologies for anyone, whether you are live or on demand on YouTube or listening on our brand new feed on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. But right,
yeah,
I'm not sure how much we got of that. The duo of LA Knight and John Cena we'll touch on in a moment. But the match itself, kind of. It's them being together that kind of makes it a little bit more interesting for me. So I feel like the Bloodline need some focus. They need a bit of attention. They need to kind of patch over some of the issues that they've gone through lately. So that's slightly swaying my prediction. Before I go full steam ahead with that, though, we will bring in the prediction from, let's go straight in with Dan's prediction.
Cena and LA Knight, taking on the team of Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. Now, for this one, I mean, the main thing would be, why is John Cena coming back to lose? But I feel as though John Cena coming back will help the younger talent, and I feel as though John is going to want to put over Solo Sikoa quite strong. He's going to want to put over Jimmy Uso quite strong. So I can see John Cena taking the fall in this one and it being a victory for the Bloodline of Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso.
All right, so Dan is going for a Bloodline victory. Now, I make some interesting points there about John Cena potentially coming back to put over younger talent. The only young talent in this is Solo Sikoa, right? But it's not so much always about young talents. It's just about kind of up and coming and fresh talent. And I think LA Knight is the other side of that as well. So an argument could be made that they should win because it helps LA Knight's stock. But I'm not sure, man. Because I feel like, the solo one makes sense as well. Because LA Knight, I think, has got the rub, so to speak, by aligning himself with John Cena. I think, he got delayed, obviously, from behind the scenes stuff. He ends up coming out, making the save, and, joins in with Cena's request for a partner, answers the call, so to speak. And I think the solo thing could be a kind of solo match, him and John Cena. I don't think this is where you put Solo over. I think, so I'm kind of leaning towards Cena and LA Knight winning for the kind of, the happy kind of scenario for the fans. The baby faces go over. But then I'm also leaning towards the Bloodline needs something, man. Like, they're falling. Their stock is certainly falling. But again, Reigns is about to come back to TV as well, right? So is that before? Is that this week on SmackDown, or is that after?
I think it's this week.
Okay. So that kind of changes, because if they lose, you can see a world where Reigns comes back and says, come on, like, ship you, put you back into shape, sort of thing. That kind of leans into my prediction quite a bit then. I think if you go who needs it, I think it's the Bloodline, which is such a weird thing to say after them dominating.
Bro, that's a weird statement.
But like, for me personally, like, I've not been excited about the Bloodline for a little while. I'm trying to look it up and see when Reigns is apparently meant to be coming back. Yeah, it doesn't seem like people know. It just seems to be a little bit of a rumor. Right, okay. I think it makes sense for him to come back after the PLE to get this storyline out of the way and kind of, whip them back into shape, so to speak. So I think it's better at the moment in time, and that's what can kind of put, light a fire under the bloodline again. I think it's probably better to have LA Knight and Cena win to, send the fans home happy. So I'm going to go LA Knight and Cena. But again, another tough one to call, in my opinion.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's a shame that this is more of like a B level pay per view or PLE because imagine Cena and LA Knight they go over, or they're about to go over, and then Roman's music hits. Right, Roman just comes walking down. There's a distraction. Before the 3 count happens, The Rock's music just goes off. Just causes an absolute that the place would just lose its mind.
Yeah.
I just think that'd be such a great moment. Nah, not a chance. But that'd be something so cool.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go next?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. That I think the bloodline will bounce back because they have Roman. And this is how I'm looking at it. They can have Roman and they'll bounce back from that because the storyline isn't finished yet. However, when Cena goes, the only person on their own there is LA Knight. And I feel you literally right now is like lightning in a bottle. I mean, I would say LA Knight got a louder pop than The Rock and John Cena when he appeared.
I don't know. Rock was massive, but yeah, I think it's on his way to that at the moment.
Did you hear the LA Knight one when he come out to sign the contract? I couldn't hear his music. For a while. I couldn't that's a mad pop. I mean, he's getting that pop now, and he's and they're only starting to push him since
they need to take advantage of it. So
they do because I mean, yes, I love Cody, right? I love Cody Rhodes. I've got photos with him and stuff like that. It's amazing, such a lovely guy. And you've met LA Knight, and both of them could be amazing people to kind of lead the next charge of this is the face of the company. But I always feel like if you have one, you do need to have another one. And it's kind of like a Rock and Austin kind of scenario. One's The Rock and one's Austin. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be pushed that way. So I think we're getting into a position where there's maybe 2 people that are face of the company, 2 males that are leading by charge. And I literally think that's Cody and LA Knight. It could be wrong, but LA Knight at the moment is getting mad noise, and I think they need to jump on that while they can. So yeah, I just think him taking a loss here is a bad idea. So it's got to be LA Knight and Cena. I mean, did you see Cena's reaction, by the way, when LA Knight come out and signed a thing, was like a fanboy. He looked like he was the rookie.
Yeah, Cena does play those scenarios well. I remember when Daniel Bryan was getting over, he did the same sort of thing. He's wise, and Zack Ryder, he's wise to jump on these things. And Rock does it as well. When they bring Rock back, he kind of works with the up and coming heel and the up and coming babyface and gives the rub to both, hopefully. But I just feel I don't think usually LA Knight really needs it. It's not like a few months ago where he needed it to get into the position he's in, but to continue to build, it kind of makes sense. I think he's already got a massive kind of pat on the back essentially by giving him the kind of role to save little old John Cena against the bloodline, so and aligning himself with Cena and Cena's stamp of approval, I think it works really well already. So he's kind of already got it, but giving them that win, I think on the B level pay-per-view as well, I think, sends the fans home happy and just continues at a nice level. My biggest concern is just the whole bloodline looking like they're floundering at the moment. But as you said, I think, as soon as Roman comes back and can light a fire under them and get things going once again. So it's not necessarily a win that they need. It's just they need something. And because there is something potentially around the corner with Roman, I agree with you. When Cena leaves, the person that doesn't have that second opportunity or something like that is LA Knight. Yeah, LA Knight will still be over, but winning with John Cena, we'll kind of give him a few extra points as well. So yeah.
Also, so Jimmy Uso, I don't know if you've seen. I know you said you've been watching and dabbling in and out and catching up and stuff and that. But Jimmy started to act more and more like Roman over the current weeks, holding his hand out from the microphone the way he does. There's something there, so I feel like there is a story ready and they're planting it, and it's gonna have the story's gonna come to the front after this match has happened, which is why I think another reason there's like an implosion within the bloodline. Maybe it's Jimmy versus Roman next. Do you know what I mean? Like, there has to be something.
Like, again, there's all these stories. Even with Jey, I think Jey's been taken away so they can come back to it in the future because they want to stretch this out. Because I think it would be ridiculous to bring The Rock back and not have the bloodline as a unified force. Like, and it's just him. You know, it would be ridiculous. But I guess they needed to shake something up. So, as much as I'm annoyed, I kind of am starting to see a way around, what they've done. All right, so it looks like we're both going for LA Knight and John Cena. What does Lucas say?
My prediction for the match between John Cena and LA Knight teaming together to take on the Bloodline is Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso. I believe this should be the main event. It's tricky though because it's last man standing as well, but John Cena, I guess. Main event. I think they've gotta send the fans home happy. Every single pay-per-view main event lately has been doom and gloom. And I just think, Team Cena and LA Knight just got to win. It'd be a nice big moment. With respect, they're not beating Roman, so it's not like that. And it gives Roman something to do on television to kind of tell them off, I guess, when he returns in time for Saudi and Survivor Series. So I predict that John Cena and LA Knight, rubbish catchphrase, will be victorious.
All right, Lucas not a fan of.
I'm gonna drop an elbow on Lucas in a minute.
But what he is a fan of is the same kind of theory we're coming up with. That sending your fans home happy, and also Roman Reigns coming back to kind of light a fire under the bloodline as well. So that kind of makes sense. Interesting that you use the same kind of term, because when I was saying send the fans home happy, you are usually talking about the last match. But I'm not sure if it will be the main event. But as Lucas kind of alluded to there, John Cena, maybe it will. Because again, you've got last man standing. You got which is a world title match, and also the tag title match, which I could see being a big deal because potential change in kind of ownership of those belts there as well. Right, so just to recap on that round, Down has gone for the bloodline, but the rest of us have gone for LA Knight and John Cena. Right, all right. So with that in mind, we are now going to get into the fifth match that has been announced at time of recording. Of course, we'll be back in a few days' time for our build-up show as well. So if you're new here to the channel or you're listening to us for the first time by audio, you can join us a few hours before the P&E this weekend where we do our live build-up show. Very excited to do this, Rob. I love doing our build-ups there. A really fun, laid-back stream. There's always kind of interesting rumors and gossip and breaking news going on surrounding the PLE. So we like to cover that in the hours leading into them as well, and you never know what's going to happen or who's going to show up. Our many friends in the wrestling media have kind of graced us with their presence in the past, so hopefully we'll have a few kind of special guests to join us as well. But basically on that show we'll also be covering any last minute matches that have been added on SmackDown or simply kind of posted on social media the hours before, because again sometimes that happens as well. So these predictions will be locked in, but we will be able to kind of look back on some of these with hindsight with the SmackDown results as well, but we won't be able to change them, but we'll be able to predict any kind of new matches that are added as well. But again, at time of recording, we have 5 matches, so I think it's about time to get into that final match. And again, whether or not it headlines, who knows? It's really going to be hard to kind of predict even that, what closes the show, but it could very well be the unified tag title match of the Judgment Day, represented by Finn Balor and Damian Priest, of course, the tag team champions, defended against Jey Uso and not Jimmy Uso, Cody Rhodes. And I think that is what's kind of making this one a hard one to predict for me, Rob, because I don't want to see an Uso win a tag title without the other Uso. I don't want that to happen. I don't want them to have unequal amounts of reigns, unless Jimmy wins with Solo in the future or something like that. I don't want that to happen. I'm all for them going separate. I'm all for them maybe putting the world title, WWE Universal, whatever they're calling it these days, on Jey on his own. But I don't want the Usos to have different numbers in their title runs. I think it should be together because they're one of the greatest tag teams of all time. So it's a tough one. At the same time, you've got this Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn situation going on in the background. And I saw a backstage interview that they did where they basically said, well, Owen said, I don't care what happens, we're next in line. And Sami said, it's bittersweet. I love those guys, but I feel like we should be kind of given that opportunity. So is that what's going on here? We continuing this whole thing of, Sami being on the side of an understanding of Cody bringing over Jey to the Raw roster, but KO being wary of it. And is it going to lead to more of an implosion now, or is it just an implosion between themselves? Or are we going to get them screw Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso? Are we going to get them kind of come out to challenge the new champions of Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso? Like, that is what's making it a tough call for me. But ultimately, I don't want an Uso to win without another Uso. So that's long-term kind of historical, looking at the record books. I want it to tie up in a nice little bow there, but I know WWE are going to be more tempted 9 times out of 10, as they usually are, to just go with the current thing. And I feel like there is a very real possibility that Cody and Jey win the titles, because Jey is very kind of hot at the moment, and so is Cody Rhodes as well. So that kind of makes sense there. And it does kind of therefore lead into this whole thing of, Kevin Owens and Sami now either turning heel or kind of prolonging that and not quite doing it yet, but something further down the line, or turning heel to literally stop them. Or we've got the scenario, like you mentioned earlier on, that the Judgment Day lose this, and this kind of frees up Damian Priest to do something for his Money in the Bank cash in as well. So I am massively torn, basically, on this one. And I didn't think it would be the case when we came into this as well. We got a nice little heart being sent here. It hasn't quite worked, but I can see you attempted to send us an emoji. So we appreciate that in the comments as well. But hey, let us know what you think is going to happen at Fastlane. Right. What do I think is going to happen? What do I think is going to happen? I'm going to bring up the graphic again just for kind of inspiration.
I'm very torn on this, by the way. This is the hardest one for me to call.
I'm looking at the Judgment Day with the titles, and I don't want the implosion to happen with them anytime soon. I know they're flirting with it, but the Money in the Bank briefcase is a year-long opportunity. They don't need to do it yet. So I don't want them to do it yet. So I don't want them to lose the titles. They are still one of the most important things in the WWE at the moment. So them losing the titles doesn't make any sense unless they're either going to implode or it's to free up Damian Priest. And I don't think we need to get to either of those things right now, even though you made a fantastic point for it happening earlier on. So if I kind of keep that hat on, even with all these things, I'm trying to juggle in my head the opportunity for Jey Uso to be stopped and Jey Uso to not be stopped. Oh my goodness, it is a tough one. But ultimately, I'm going to go for the safest bet. And I think the wisest thing to do when you kind of weigh them all up is keep the titles on Judgment Day. But I 100% could see every single scenario I just mentioned happening this weekend as well. So with that in mind, Rob, you're up next.
Yeah, do you know, it's I think this is the hardest one for me to call, because a part of me thinks it'll be great. It would be absolute. I know you're against it, but the fact that Jey would have another title reign over Jimmy within numbers of a tag title would be. There's something. Obviously, they're not feuding. Well, they have feuded, but there's heat there. So they'd have to do something, and that would weigh over their heads. And that would be a great way to destruct the bloodline completely again. Yeah, if they get in with them, and then that gets brought up. So it's a clever way. It's a clever little plot line or like seed to break something, right? So that's my first thing. Good. Next thing, Jey Uso has been toying with Rhea. And if you've seen Dominic Mysterio, you've been getting jealous. So that's another thing. So imagine if Rhea comes out and then she distracts Jey, causes that, like that. There's that. So much. JD McDonough, he could appear. Dominic could appear. You just don't know. Like, there's so much to everyone at the moment. Obviously, there's one Uso, Cody. They're on okay terms, but they screwed Cody a couple weeks ago. You know, so there's just so much. I don't know which way they're gonna go. Do you know what I mean? Like it's so hard, and I think if anything, I love the fact that I can't go, this person's winning, and that's it, and I have a reason.
Yeah,
because
well, this is
all
the
the
thing,
others,
though.
I have a reason.
As we're saying, there are so many scenarios where it makes you excited because you have no idea what's going to happen. But I really hope, because it's a big pay-per-view, it doesn't end up just being regular. Like, there needs to be something exciting happen. You know, I think there needs to be either a shock or like some sort of shock, even if it's not a title change, it's someone being screwed, or there has to be something big happening. That's my concern here, that there are so many things they could do. If we get out of this as if it could have been the main event of Raw, I'll be very upset. You know, so
Yeah.
No, I agree. But I'm hopeful, like you are, that this is an indicator of that this could be something quite fun.
Yeah. I mean, look, the idea of Cody and Jey having the titles it'll be so strange. But I mean, John Cena held it with David Otunga. You know, so it's do you know what I mean? Like Santino Marella done it with who did he hold the titles with?
Kozlov. I know he was in the team with Kozlov.
Kozlov. Yeah. So they held the tag titles. Like, I mean, Austin and Foley, or Dude Love.
Yeah.
So there's been weird connections and stuff like that. So I just don't know. It wouldn't be the first time that we've had a weird partnership. So I'm so unsure. Like, I mean, if we're going by what I said, my prediction would be Priest would be the champion at the end of the show. But then, does he need to lose the titles? Because let's face it, if you want to implode Judgment Day, having them have all the titles, but Priest still be a world champion, Finn Balor's still going to look and go like, well, I want that title. Like, there's still, even that causes another story. So I don't know. I really don't know. Like, this is probably the hardest one for me to call. It has been for a while, actually. Oh man, do you know what? Even though you've said the idea of Jimmy and Jey, am I back? We may have froze. I don't know if it's me.
Yeah, I think we're back.
There we go. Yeah, we're good. I was just saying, I didn't know if it was me or you that had froze then. Look, the idea of Jimmy and Jey having a separate title reigns, as much as I love the idea because it's a great seed and a storyline to lead in, I don't like the idea of one Uso winning it without the other. I think I have to stand firm with you on that. I'm a big Uso fan, and as much as I love that we're able to do their stuff separately in the moment on different shows, we get to see it. So, like, safe bet, I'm saying Judgment Day, and then if anything, Priest has 3 titles. At the end of the show, if that's the case.
I don't think, because I mean, there's a real scenario where they keep tag titles on them, and Priest has got it, and. And they don't have the split just because I don't want the split. Do you know what I mean? I don't want the split just yet. That can happen when he's champ 6 months into a title reign. Like Finn Balor could win the Rumble or something like that, So, So, look, I'm with you. It's an interesting kind of possibility that we could see, them use it as storyline where one Uso is one more than the other. But ultimately, I don't want that for the record books, even though they could use it quite well. Right, let's see what our colleagues in Dan and Lucas think again. Once again, really appreciate that they could send in their video. So let's hear what they've got to say.
Cody Rhodes teaming with main event Jey Uso to take on the team of Finn Balor and Damian Priest, the Judgment Day. Now, I'm not sure whether this match is actually for the WWE Undisputed Tag Team Championships. If it is, then I don't really think my decision changes that much, really, because I feel as though this is going to be a Judgment Day victory with the help of JD McDonough. I think there's no reason for them to take the tag titles off of Judgment Day just yet. And obviously the Freakin team of Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso don't need them, and it would just be weird seeing Jey Uso as a tag team champion with anybody other than his brother. So for me, it's going to be a Judgment Day retention here.
All right, yeah, Dan picked up on some similar themes that we've kind of touched on there as well. Of course, saying that it would be weird for one Uso to win without the other. We also had mentioning JD McDonough. Of course, you touched on this just a moment ago as well, Rob. We didn't really go into it too much detail. They've kind of gone, step back a little bit on that now as well, and that kind of feels like it has to be for a reason. Surely we are going to get an extra member officially of the Judgment Day. That would kind of make sense, unless they really use him to kind of fuel this split instead. But I think it'd be better for him to actually join the team.
Yeah, so speaking of that as well, I don't know if you see what Rhea said to Dom. Basically, if you don't come back with the end, because Dom lost the NXT title, a North American title, and Rhea Ripley said, if you don't come back with it, you're gone. So there has to be something there. So imagine if JD McDonough helps Dom regain the title.
See, that's annoying though, because you don't want to hot potato the title though. Like, it'd be such a shame after such a big win as well. Like,
but I think that's something that can be done with the NXT title, because obviously it's making Dom is doing stuff on NXT. But I love the idea of McDonough being the one there to help Dom. Sorry, JD being the one there to help Dom regain the title, and then joining the Judgment Day. It's like, I've done this, and then they can see that they've done it, because there's been a little bit of a eyeballs kind of thrown, and
he did help with what? Like, so I think, it's just
so it's kind of, he's there but he's not there. So if they're going to use him, then I think that's the time. So that'd be interesting, especially if you just said Madonna helping.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so we've also got a comment here from Kervin, who says this pay-per-view feels like a Raw or a SmackDown. Yeah, I touched on that earlier on, Kervin. I think it's an awkward one with the card, and that's what I'm worried about. Sometimes you get a not so exciting card, but the performances completely, make up for it. Sometimes that doesn't happen, and it does just end up feeling like a Raw or SmackDown. That's what I'm concerned about, especially with this match. As we said, there are so many different scenarios they can go down. Hopefully, this does kind of work out. But thank you so much for joining us, mate. Thank you for sending us in your comment. Again, whether you're watching live or on demand, we'd love to hear what you have to say about Fastlane. And also, we'd love to hear you your thoughts on the show hours before it. As I mentioned earlier on, we will be back on Saturday night. Talking all things Fastlane with the build-up, a different kind of perspective, of course, with hours outside the show there. So we'd appreciate if you join us live for that on Saturday night. This is the place to be for build-up coverage of Fastlane. Now, without further ado, though, I'm going to get now into Lucas's prediction for this match as well.
Now, my prediction for the match for the Tag Team Championships between the Judgment Day and Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso is actually quite a difficult one, actually, because as much as Judgment Day just won the belts, as the whole, obviously, Priest being not clear to compete stuff to kind of go through, and so it does beg the question, the match might not actually happen, or if it does, potentially it could put like JD McDonough in Damian Priest's place, I guess. But either way, I don't see any benefit to taking the tag belts off of Judgment Day. So I will go with Judgment Day to retain.
Yeah, I think ultimately that's where it comes, it boils down to for me as well. Judgment Day, in my opinion, should keep the titles. That's kind of the biggest factor, not necessarily about who you're putting it on. Instead, it's just about them losing, which is what I don't want to see. Do you have any kind of thought on what you said there, though, Rob, as far as a possible kind of replacement or the match not going ahead because of Damian Priest?
I don't know. I mean, I like that idea. The thing is, though, how much truth is it in that Priest thing? Do you know what I mean? Like, are we? Is that a storyline? Is it kayfabe? Is it legit? Do you know? You can never tell, especially when they're in this position. Obviously, we were saying about you don't like the Freebird rule, but they've not spoken on ever having this Freebird rule. So if someone else now comes in to take that place,
even Dom,
Freebird rule,
Dom could.
Can anyone? Could Dom then do it? Is that what they're doing? Like,
make up for the NXT North American.
Never cleared that. Yeah. So I don't know. It's interesting, but I really don't know where they're going with it. So I'm really unsure on. I mean, with the New Day, there was 3 of them. 2 of them won it, but they said together they are the tag team champions. So when they done the Freebird rule, it made sense. Even with the Freebirds, I know you're not a big fan of it, but
nope,
they showed that they were a unit. Like, they showed that there was a unit within that tag division. The Judgment Day haven't done that. So
Interesting point.
I really don't know.
Again, it could be Dom's way to kind of make up for the North American loss as well. But what I do know is I've enjoyed talking wrestling once again, Rob. It's been exciting tonight to kind of dig into this PLE. Again, I haven't been watching too much lately, but I am very much looking forward to Saturday night. I always enjoy these Saturday night PLEs as well. And of course, we'll be back not only on Saturday night for the build-up show, but of course, after it will be aiming to hit you with a recap and review as well. So if you want to know our thoughts on whether or not our predictions even come true, or if they do not come true, then you want to stick right here with us on the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling YouTube channel. And of course, as I mentioned earlier on, we are now also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, where if you want to listen to the audio versions of these podcast episodes, we could give you that as well. You touched on it earlier on, Rob. I got to get, and you've touched on it a little bit there. LA Knight. Met him a little while ago, of course, when he was in London. We did get chatting about his promos, his comparisons. We all know which ones we're talking about there, and even the reason behind his name as well. I'm not talking Eli Drake. I'm talking LA Knight. Yeah, what is the reason behind that name? So if you fancy hearing a little bit more about that, we encourage you to check that video out on the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling YouTube channel. Anyway, thank you very much for everyone that's watched live on demand. Thank you to everyone that sent us a comment so far. And again, there's plenty of chance to do that throughout the next few days. Get your comments down below. Let us know what you think is going to happen at Fastlane. Let us know what you think of our predictions as well. Would appreciate to see your comments, whether that is on the YouTube link or whether or not you reply to us on social media at RM Pro Wrestling on TikTok, on Instagram, and on X. I think that's the first time I've ever referred to it as X. There you go. A special exclusive for the first audio podcast on Spotify and Apple. Anyway, I've enjoyed chatting with you, Rob. Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Nah, man. I just want to get this mask off. The room's bloody hot.
Of course, we can't be breaking kayfabe. So let's head out of here, and we'll see you on Saturday night, everyone.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.